So, the next time you feel just completely overwhelmed with anxiety, or maybe you get this sudden, inexplicable flash of anger, I actually want you to do something super specific.
Because it's going to sound a little crazy at first.
Right. I want you to look down at your right hand, like literally look at it right now. Are you holding a computer mouse?
Yeah, because there's this very real, very biological possibility that the source of your emotional crisis isn't, your childhood or your relationships or your boss.
It might literally just be the asymmetry of your right shoulder blade.
Which, I mean, it sounds completely absurd when you frame it like that.
It really does.
But biologically speaking, it's entirely plausible. We have this really persistent habit of treating our emotions like they're these abstract math problems, like
Yeah.
things we could just solve if we sit there and psychoanalyze them long enough.
Like we can just think our way out of a bad mood.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And in doing that, we completely ignore the mechanical hardware that's actually running the software.
And that hardware is exactly what we are focusing on for this deep dive. Because today we're looking at a truly fascinating, albeit very densely named text. It's called Working with What Does Not Appear in Subjective Awareness Without Over-Subjectivizing It.
Rolls right off the tongue, right?
Oh, yeah, super catchy title.
Yeah.
But reading this text, it honestly feels almost like looking at one of Leonardo da Vinci's anatomical sketches.
That's a great comparison.
Right, it's highly mechanical. It's like it pulls back the skin to show you all the gears and pulleys of your nervous system. But at the same time, there is this weird, quiet serenity to how it breaks the body down.
Yeah, that Da Vinci comparison is actually incredibly apt because the text operates right at that intersection between strict anatomical reality and this kind of profound quiet.
The mission for today really is to completely upend how you view your own emotional reactions. We want to move away from that instinct to always battle your feelings and instead look at how you can adjust the invisible background conditions that generate them in the first place.
Because the text is trying to teach you how to look beneath the surface of what you feel without, turning what you find into a brand new neurosis.
Right. But to get there, we really have to start with what I think is the most jarring premise in the entire document.
Oh, the late stage display concept.
Yes, because, okay, when you think to yourself, I am anxious, you just naturally assume that is the beginning of the event. Like you feel anxiety and then you react to it.
Right, you think it's step one.
Exactly. But this text argues that your conscious awareness of the anxiety is actually the very end of a massive unseen process. The anxiety is what the author calls a late-stage display.
And that is the fundamental paradigm shift you have to make if you're going to understand this text. Your conscious awareness is not the entrance of a reaction. It's the exit.
Which is wild to think about. The way I visualize this while reading, and tell me if this tracks, is that your subjective awareness is basically the lock screen on your smartphone.
Okay, I like that.
So when you realize you're anxious, it's basically like getting a push notification banner that just pops up and says anxiety.
Right.
But for that banner to even appear, the phone, which is your body in this case, has been running complex code in the background for hours. It's crunching all this data silently.
Yeah, processing the temperature of the room you're in.
Subtle shifts in your blood sugar.
The way your lower back is compressing against your desk chair. Or even, your immune response to something you ate for breakfast.
Exactly. All of that data gets crunched, and then the conscious thought, the I am anxious part, is just the final incredibly simplified alert.
That tracks perfectly.
Oh,
So especially when you map it onto another really important concept from the text, which is the shaping aperture.
Okay, yes, let's unpack the aperture because this is huge.
This is a crucial mechanical reality to understand.
Hmm.
We all tend to walk around believing that our conscious mind is a transparent window. Like we're just looking out at the world and looking into our own bodies and perceiving the complete, unvarnished truth of reality.
Like we're seeing everything exactly as it is.
Right. But the brain doesn't work like a window at all. It works like a shaping aperture on a camera lens.
And an aperture restricts how much light gets in.
Exactly. In your nervous system, this aperture is compressing millions of simultaneous biological and environmental interactions down into a single, simplified, handleable form.
I mean, it kind of has to do that, doesn't it? Because if you were consciously aware of, I don't know, your liver processing toxins right now.
Or every single hair follicle shifting against your shirt.
Yes. Or the exact carbon dioxide levels in your bloodstream, your brain would just instantly short circuit. It's too much data.
Precisely. The compression is literally a survival mechanism. You need that narrow display just so you can function and speak and make basic decisions without being completely paralyzed.
So the problem isn't that the aperture exists.
No, the problem, as the text points out, is that we mistake that tiny little slice of information coming through it for the entire phenomenon.
Hmm.
We think the push notification is the entirety of the software.
Okay, so if the conscious emotion is just the final notification, what actually happens when we try to logic ourselves out of a bad mood?
Oh, it's a disaster.
Because my instinct, and I think basically everyone's instinct, is to attack the feeling head on. Like, try to just swipe the notification away or aggressively force myself to think positive thoughts.
It fundamentally does not work
Yeah.
because subjective awareness cannot directly rewrite itself. You're trying to use the output to change the output.
Okay, I do understand the logic of that, but I have to push back a little here.
Go for it.
Because it feels incredibly dismissive of what people actually go through. Like, if I'm sitting here having a full-blown panic attack, my heart is racing, I have this physical suffocating lump in my throat.
The felt sense, as the text calls it.
Right. If you tell me I'm just looking at a late-stage display,
Mm-hmm.
that is going to make me furious. It is a very real, very physical sensation. And since it's physical, can I just focus all my mental energy on, like, relaxing my chest to fix the panic?
I totally get why it sounds dismissive. But it's really not dismissing the reality of the pain. It's actually trying to save you from a completely futile strategy.
How so?
Yes, a felt sense, like that tightness in your chest, feels much closer to the physical truth than just a purely abstract thought. But the text is super clear about this. Even that physical sensation is still just another shaped display.
It's still just a projection.
Exactly. Beneath that tight chest, there's an entire cascading waterfall of autonomic nervous system responses, inflammatory markers, endocrine shifts, things that will never reach your conscious awareness.
Right, the stuff behind the aperture.
So if you sit there during a panic attack and aggressively try to force your chest to relax using just sheer willpower, you're basically engaging in an illusion of control.
Okay, I see what you mean.
The text uses this brilliant metaphor here. It says it's like rubbing a computer monitor to try and fix a software glitch.
Oh, wow. That is such a visceral image. Like, you have a corrupted system file, your screen is all artifacting and glitching, and your solution is to grab a microfiber cloth and just aggressively scrub the glass of the monitor.
And think about what actually happens when you press too hard on an LCD screen. You don't fix the pixels, you actually warp them further.
You just create those weird colored ripples.
Exactly, you create a ripple effect of pressure. And this is exactly what happens to you, to the listener, when you try to aggressively process a difficult emotion by constantly obsessing over the physical feeling of it.
You create internal pressure.
You exert force against a display screen, which only heightens your nervous system's alarm state. You actually feel significantly worse because you're rubbing the screen.
Okay. Realizing we are just rubbing the monitor definitely stops us from doing further damage. That makes total sense.
Right.
But it obviously doesn't fix the corrupted file. If we want to actually change the code, we have to look at what the text calls the pre-subjective conditions, right? The hidden hardware.
Correct. The conditions that exist in your physical body and your environment long before a feeling ever crosses that threshold into awareness.
And the list of this hidden wiring in the text is just wild. It goes way beyond just, make sure you get enough sleep.
Oh, absolutely.
It talks about the stability of your abdominal pressure. It talks about how your cervical spine, your neck rests on your torso. It looks at systemic inflammation.
There are massive factors.
But the one that really caught my attention was the exploratory pressure of eye movement. Like, wait, how does eye movement create an emotion before I even feel it?
It all comes down to evolutionary biology. How you move your eyes literally dictates the state of your nervous system.
Okay, walk me through that.
So if your eyes are engaging in these rapid, hard, saccadic movements like darting around a room, overscanning your environment, or even just sharply jumping between dozens of tabs on a super bright monitor.
Guilty.
Right, we all are. But your brain interprets that specific visual exploratory pressure as a search for threats. It literally assumes you are looking for a predator.
Oh.
So before your conscious mind even registers a single specific thought, your nervous system is already flooding your bloodstream with stress hormones.
That's crazy.
The physical movement of the eyes preloads the emotion of anxiety into your system.
That is incredible. And that actually brings us right back to the computer mouse example from the intro, because the text explicitly talks about physical asymmetry.
Yes, the posture mechanics.
Can you break down the actual mechanics of why using a right-hand mouse could cause an emotional breakdown at, 4 in the afternoon?
Gladly. Think about the mechanical chain reaction. You sit at a desk for 8 hours, right?
Yeah.
You subtly hike your right shoulder up and forward, just a fraction of an inch to maneuver the mouse.
Right, to grip it.
That tiny, continuous, asymmetrical load compresses your right thoracic spine and your rib cage.
Over the course of hours.
Exactly. Over hours, that mechanical strain physically restricts the expansion of your right lung.
Just on that one side.
Right. And because your breathing is now shallow and restricted, your carbon dioxide levels shift subtly. Now, your vagus nerve, which runs from your brainstem down through your abdomen, it detects this restricted breathing as a huge sign of physiological distress.
It thinks you're suffocating.
Essentially, yes. It signals your sympathetic nervous system to go on high alert. And suddenly, as a late-stage display, you feel this deep, existential sense of dread.
And because we only experience that late-stage display through our shaping aperture, we just sit there psychoanalyzing the dread.
Exactly.
We're sitting there thinking, why am I so depressed today? Is it my marriage? Am I fundamentally flawed? And it's like, no, your lung was just compressed for 6 hours.
It's amazing, isn't it? You're trying to solve a spiritual crisis that was quite literally caused by a peripheral computer accessory.
Okay, so if I know this now, if I know that my sudden wave of intense irritability is actually just a blood sugar crash or bad posture, my immediate instinct is to just relabel it. Like, I want to say to myself, I am not actually angry at my friend. My blood sugar is just low. That seems like a really smart, logical way to handle it.
It seems super logical, but the text specifically warns against doing exactly that.
Wait, really?
Yeah, that is what the author calls over-subjectivizing, and it is a massive trap.
Why is it a trap? Isn't it just medically accurate?
It's a trap because you're taking a pre-subjective biological reality and dragging it forcefully into your conscious awareness just to build a new identity around it.
Oh, I see.
Your ego loves a story.
Yeah.
If you start saying, oh, my anxiety is just my cervical spine acting up, or I'm having an autonomic nervous system response, you're just making up a new rigid narrative.
Ah, so I am still using the microfiber cloth, but instead of rubbing the screen, I'm taking a dry erase marker and writing blood sugar in huge letters across the monitor.
Exactly.
I'm still entirely obsessed with the display screen.
Precisely. You are violently forcing this subtle, highly complex biological process into a tiny little box just so your conscious mind can possess it.
Right.
The text emphasizes that these hidden biological processes cannot be fully grasped by conscious thought. If you try to force them to be understood that way, you just create a whole new layer of tension.
So what are we supposed to do with them?
The goal is to treat these things as background conditions. You acknowledge them, sure, but you do not harden them into your core identity.
Okay, but if I can't build a story around it, and I know my posture or my abdominal pressure is causing all this emotional noise, my very next instinct is to just violently fix the posture.
Fix the hardware.
Yeah. I'm going to aggressively clench my stomach muscles, force my spine perfectly straight, and just hold it there all day to fix the wiring.
Which is?
But based on what we just said about the illusion of control, I'm guessing that's a terrible idea.
It is a terrible idea, yes. And it leads directly into the text's actual method for working with this hardware. It's the core difference between strong control and discovery.
Discovery.
Okay. What you just described, forcing your spine straight, that is strong control, you are aggressively trying to manage your nervous system, which actually only creates more mechanical strain.
It's just more rubbing the screen, but from the inside?
Exactly. Instead, the text introduces the concept of lowering the baseline idle gain.
Baseline idle gain. Let's translate that mechanically. What does that actually mean for the listener?
Think of idle gain, like the background hiss on an old stereo amplifier when the music isn't playing.
Okay, yeah, that low static sound.
Right. If the volume knob on that amp is turned way up, even a tiny, tiny signal will blast through the speakers and totally distort.
Because the baseline is already so high.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And your nervous system works the exact same way. If your baseline physical tension is high from bad posture, eye strain, shallow breathing, your nervous system's amplifier is turned up.
So a tiny environmental stressor that shouldn't even bother you gets amplified into a massive emotional reaction.
You've got it. So lowering the baseline idle gain means gently removing that background physical noise, so your system isn't constantly teetering on the brink of distortion.
And the mechanism the text suggests for doing this is what it calls the reverse vector release of inner tension.
A very sci-fi sounding term.
It sounds like a maneuver from a starship, but I know it's incredibly practical. How does a normal person actually do a reverse vector release?
It relies on the principle of destructive interference. It's very similar to how noise-canceling headphones work.
Oh, interesting.
And when you put on noise-canceling headphones, they don't block sound by putting a thick physical wall over your ear, right?
Right, they actively cancel it.
They listen to the frequency of the outside noise, and they play the exact opposite frequency back into your ear. The two waves collide and completely neutralize each other.
So how do we do that with physical tension in the body? We can't play a sound at our muscles.
Well, say you notice your jaw is tightly clenched. Strong control would tell you to aggressively force your jaw open.
Stretch it out.
Right. But reverse vector release says, just observe the tension first. Let's say your jaw is clenching upward with a force level of 10.
Okay.
You do not fight it with a downward force of 10. Instead, you just introduce a very thin downward intention of relaxation, maybe just a force level of 1.
Just a tiny counter signal.
Exactly. You just introduce a subtle counter frequency across the habitual field of tension. You aren't forcing good feelings over bad ones. You are just gently interrupting the signal so the tension neutralizes itself.
That makes so much sense. You aren't fighting the hardware, you're just slightly changing the input signal.
Exactly.
Since we are talking about this so mechanically, let's actually do the 60-second exercise the text hints at regarding the cervical spine.
Oh, perfect, yes.
Because if a listener is sitting at their desk right now feeling that late-stage emotional heaviness, how do they actually use discovery to adjust their neck?
I can walk you through it right now. So first, don't move. Just notice where your head is currently positioned.
Okay, I'm noticing.
Notice the weight of it. Now, your instinct might be to immediately snap your shoulders back and tuck your chin like a soldier at attention.
Yeah, that's what I want to do.
Don't do that. That is strong control.
Right. No rubbing the screen.
Exactly. Instead, I want you to just bring your awareness to the base of your skull, right where your neck meets your head.
Okay.
Don't force a movement. Just allow the muscles right at that specific juncture to soften by about 5%. Just imagine the skull is sort of floating slightly upward off the top vertebra.
Wow. Okay, I'm actually feeling a tiny micro adjustment happen completely on its own.
Yes. You let the cervical spine find its own natural resting place on the torso.
Yeah.
You don't put it there. You allow it to settle there by removing the restrictive tension.
You're lowering the idle gain.
Exactly. Now combine that with the exploratory pressure of your eyes. Stop staring so intensely at the dead center of your screen.
Yeah.
Let your peripheral vision open up. Let your gaze become really soft.
Okay.
Just notice the light at the edges of the room.
That is genuinely amazing. Like, just doing that for 30 seconds, there is an immediate mechanical drop in my heart rate.
That's powerful.
It really feels like the volume knob on the amplifier just got turned down from an 8 to a 4.
And that right there is the posture of discovery. You are gently adjusting the pre-display conditions, and then you are simply waiting to see how the software responds.
I love that. But I do want to make sure we address a potential pitfall here, though.
Sure.
Because if we are constantly checking our posture and softening our gaze and basically treating our emotions as mere displays of hardware glitches, doesn't that risk turning us into dissociated robots?
It's a really valid concern.
Like, it sounds a bit like, I am not sad that my dog died. I just have excess abdominal pressure.
Right. And that is a vital distinction to make. The author actually explicitly warns against dissociation. Lowering the noise is not about becoming numb. It's not about seeking a complete loss of subjectivity.
Okay, good.
The emotions you feel are valid. The anxiety is real. The grief is real. The joy is real. You do not ignore them or pretend they don't exist.
So you still feel the anxiety. What actually changes then?
What changes is that you stop letting the emotion define your absolute reality. You stop letting it harden into your core identity.
I see.
You see the anxiety on the screen, you feel its texture, you acknowledge it is there, but you hold this dual awareness that it is a late-stage display.
You don't let it become your story.
Exactly. You simply acknowledge the notification.
Yeah.
And instead of yelling at the screen, you gently go check the cables. You
Whoa.
check your lighting, your breathing, your right-hand mouse. You stay embodied rather than escaping the body.
That brings this entirely full circle, and it is such a massive relief when you truly internalize this.
It really is.
Like, if you are listening to this right now and you are someone who constantly gets trapped in endless loops of psychoanalysis every time you feel a wave of negative emotion, this text basically gives you permission to just put the shovel down.
You don't have to dig forever.
No, you do not have to excavate the darkest corners of your soul every time you feel dread on a Tuesday afternoon. Sometimes you don't need a massive psychological breakthrough.
Sometimes you really don't.
Sometimes you literally just need to let your cervical spine float, turn off the harsh overhead fluorescent lighting and stop aggressively rubbing the monitor.
You trust your presubjective system.
Hmm.
Your organism has brilliant automatic processing capabilities. If you simply focus your effort on gently arranging your physical and environmental conditions to lower the overall noise, the system will naturally correct the display.
It is profound in its simplicity. So, as we wrap up this deep dive into the hidden hardware of our minds,
Yeah.
I know you always find a way to extract one final lingering question from these texts. Where does this leave us?
Well, the text leaves me with a thought that it doesn't directly answer, but it kind of forces you to confront.
Okay, let's hear it.
We have established that what we feel from our most paralyzing anxieties to our most radiant joys is heavily dictated by invisible background mechanics.
Right.
It's influenced by the resting position of our neck, our systemic inflammation, the visual noise of our environment.
The asymmetry of the mouse.
Exactly. So, if our emotional reality is constantly being shaped by these pre-subjective physical conditions, it really makes you wonder.
Wonder what?
Is there any part of our personality, our supposed core self, that actually exists entirely independent of our physical environment?
Huh.
Or are we, when you strip it all down, just the beautifully complex display screen of the room we happen to be sitting in?
Oh, man. I am going to be thinking about that. And honestly, the exact posture of my right shoulder for the rest of the week.
It's hard not to.
Well, let your neck settle, lower the idle gain, and stop rubbing the screen, everyone.